You got 11 days until Edge of Fate Guardians. That means it is time to get your exotic primaries in order. We're going to do exotics. We have done all the legendaries, primary, special, heavies. Starting with exotic primaries today. Exotic specials will be tomorrow, and then exotic heavies will be coming up after that. Now, when we're going to talk about exotic primaries, we are talking Expert Plus, which is basically legend difficulty, contest mode, GMs, master, stuff like that. The main difference exotic primaries have against regular primaries is they have an intrinsic 30% buff to their damage against red bars. Now, that's a boon because it makes all these exotic primaries really strong ad clear options. In fact, these are probably the best ad clear options if you're in an encounter where you have a ton of red bars. This is what you want to be using. But on the downside, that means it feels even worse to shoot elites, mini bosses, and champions with these than regular primaries because you're seeing a much bigger loss in damage compared to a regular legendary where it's a little bit more hidden from you because you're not losing that 30% buff. That doesn't make these necessarily bad at killing elites. It just feels a lot worse. They feel like they hit a brick wall. And the current meta isn't really exotic primaries because exotic specials and exotic heavies are maintaining their really high damage output that they have right now, even against red bars. Like, for example, Lord of Wolves, no secret, is one of the best special weapons in the game. And it doesn't fall off against red bars. It just deletes those in the same way that a primary would, but it also deletes bosses and champions and elites and everything else. So exotic primaries have kind of fallen off for the most part in this endgame content because you could just take a more powerful exotic special. And we have such a good ammo economy right now, let alone in the Edge of Fate, that it doesn't really matter. But exotic primaries are still fun to use. There's a lot of niche ones that have 3.0 implications, ones that do bonus damage against champions specifically, and ones that kind of are definitive for day one contest raids. So they're not totally without merit. And most people aren't going to complain if you are running an exotic primary. But in this list, it is a lot more cut and dry than the legendaries because the legendaries have random rolls, but there's a lot more debate about what's the best combination. And some of those strong legendary primaries are competitive with really good exotic primaries. I still hope that there's something on here that maybe you haven't been trying out that you would like to try. Some of these things are oldies, but very interesting, very strong, standout primaries. So our first honorable mention is going to be Taraba. Taraba's one of the most disgusting DPS primaries in the game. It doesn't compete on the top end with boss damage, but it does put up really good numbers. I think it's better than like Final Warning for boss damage. The issue with Taraba is the same thing it's always had, where you can't swap off of it and maintain your charge towards your next Ravenous Beast. You lose half of the bar when you swap. Half of the total bar, not half of what you have. And there's nothing worse than having to pull out your special to deal with a champion, or pull out your heavy to deal with a champion, or some boss or something, and then you just lose all the progress on Taraba. You have to keep Taraba out to use Taraba. It is a very strong primary, and it will chew through even elites because the Ravenous Beast is like double damage or almost triple damage in some cases. So it is a very strong effect, but it's killed by this no swapping thing that this has, along with Ace. They don't really deserve that. I know it's here for a PvP thing, but in PvE, I don't think it really has a place. Now, as a bonus, they did give it solar damage resist when you have Ravenous Beast procced, so it's kind of like Risk Runner. And getting hits will maintain the Ravenous Beast for longer, so you can keep this up for a majority of a damage phase, but it's just really restrictive to use. It's a really, really strong primary. I think a lot of you would enjoy using it, but it can't make the top 10. Our second honorable mention here is a craftable exotic. This is Revision 0. This one is purely an anti-champion pulse rifle. It doesn't have the ad clear capability of most of the things on the list, which is why it's only an honorable mention. You get a 4-round burst or a 2-round burst option. I prefer the 4-round burst because it builds up sniper shots faster. Most people prefer the 2-round burst because it has a higher DPS ceiling on there. Now we take Vorpal and 4th times on this because if you get 4 sniper shots, this will get you 2 more sniper shots if you hit the headshots. And Vorpal gives you more damage against champions, which this thing is designed to destroy. It is intrinsically anti-barrier, so anytime there's barrier champions, this is a good pick. The big thing for Revision 0 is the Alt Fire Sniper mode deals like 300% bonus damage to champions. This thing will 2-tap champions in GMs while you're 40 light under. It is no joke, but you're giving up a lot of splash damage, you're giving up a lot of ad clear by taking this. So it is a very specialist thing where if you have your subclass set up in a way that can kind of deal with a lot of those ads for you, this will serve you well in any season as long as whatever you're doing has champions. And it doesn't do anything in anything where there's not champions. Starting off our official top 10 list, the 10th place is going to go to Huckleberry. Huckleberry is a classic from D2 Year 1. We have Rampage on this thing, and just so you know, Rampage right now, 10%, 20%, 30%. The original Rampage is what Huckleberry has, which is 20%, 41%, 62%, or maybe 66%. It is much stronger than a regular Rampage on a SMG these days. So with that 66% damage buff on top of the 1.3x for it being an exotic primary, this thing will delete red bars in like half the mag, and whenever you get a kill, you'll get the entire mag reloaded from the intrinsic trait. You do get a better fire rate while you hold the trigger down, and the idea is kind of you hold the trigger down, mow through red bars, it constantly reloads, keeps the fire rate up. I would say it's more important to keep your Rampage stacks up than it is to keep the increased fire rate up, because reloading this thing takes forever. Look at that 0 reload speed. You hate reloading Huckleberry manually. So you really want to make sure you are getting a kill with your magazine. Now the catalyst has been changed over the last couple expansions, and we now have kinetic tremors instead of the original effect where it reloaded the whole mag. That's now intrinsic. Kinetic tremors gives you a much needed damage boost against tankier targets. So if you do start laying into a champion while you have Rampage kicked up, you're not going to like outright kill them, but against like an elite or maybe some of the majors, you will be able to kill them with a kinetic tremor proc because the damage does scale with Rampage, which means if they die to that, you will skip the reload still. You might be in a reload animation, you might have to cancel the reload, but it will maintain your Rampage stacks and your full magazine even on healthier targets. Being a kinetic, Huckleberry doesn't have any intrinsic 3.0 subclass things, which is why it's lower on this list and not higher up. If this thing could interact with the subclass in some way, it might go higher. You know, Gunpowder Gamble and Weaver's Call are going to get changed so they can kind of work with kinetics. So maybe we'll see some kinetic primaries coming up on the tier list eventually. But for now, we're keeping it down here. It just breaks into the top 10 for being a pure monster at killing red bars. Now, in 9th place, we have the reason that Revision 0 is not in this list, which is Vex Mythoclast, the original raid exotic, Vault of Glass. Everybody loves it. If you don't have it, you want it. So Vex Mythoclast's biggest selling point is that it is a primary fusion rifle, and it shoots like an auto rifle. Realistically, what that means is it's an auto rifle. If you get some artifact things for fusions, this will handle that. It works with exotics that work with fusion rifles. But its base form is just a beefed up auto rifle. You do get charges for every kill, where when you finish building up your stacks, which is 6 kills, you can hold R to switch into a linear fusion rifle mode, which also gets a 200% damage bonus against champions, kind of like Revision Zero's mode. The difference is the catalyst for Vex Mythoclast gives you a sort of pseudo rampage, where once you get a kill, you get 20% bonus damage, and that maintains its damage bonus, you know, the entire time it's up. You don't need to stack it. It is just get a kill, keep the bonus. You get some extra bonuses here for like stats like accuracy and stability, but you don't really need it for that. So this thing gets a double damage perk basically with the 30% and the 1.2x, which means it's way better at killing ads than Revision 0, and it is about as good at killing champions with its alt fire mode. You do have to work a little bit more because if you're not getting kills with Vex, you won't have the shot charge, whereas Revision 0 is on hit. But killing ads is kind of, like we said, the main point of an exotic primary. So Vex does that much better than Revision, so its hybrid nature feels a bit better in late game. In 8th place, we have my former top kill weapon in the game, Bad Juju. Bad Juju is an exotic pulse rifle, also kinetic. Where every kill, you'll refill the magazine, you'll get 20% bonus damage up to double damage at 5 stacks, and you'll get increased super energy per kill based on your number of stacks, where you cap out at 5x with 2% super energy per kill on top of whatever else you're getting for damage and the kill itself. Also full auto, but that's kind of intrinsic if you have the thing on now. Comes with hip fire grip. Your hip firing in this thing, I guess, pop off. Intrinsically now, it has an effect that is not listed, where getting 3 kills will cause a like Curse Thrall explosion, kind of similar to Necrochasm, which has greatly increased this thing's AoE ad clear. It's even better than it used to be. The super energy is great for super builds in this area where you have a ton of red bars. There are exotics that do better with building super energy when there's tankier targets, because Bad Juju does fall off against those elites much harder. However, it's double damage bonus if you pack up String of Curses, is still pretty good. It is maintaining that very powerful DPS. You just feel that minus 30%. With roaming supers getting buffed to have better cooldowns, and the upcoming changes to intellect giving us actual cooldown reduction on our super for active gains, this should increase how much super energy you get with bad juju as well. This will be even more powerful going into Edge of Fate, when you can also increase the damage of your super. Now, the catalyst for bad juju is pretty much mandatory if you don't have it. It just increases the duration of String of Curses, but changing that from like the 5 seconds it normally is to like 7 seconds with the catalyst can be a deal breaker for you actually getting a kill to reproc it in endgame content. In 7th place, we have another Pulse Rifle. These would be higher if they had better elite damage, but right now they're down here. Graviton Lance, 7th place. I know what a lot of you are thinking. Graviton Lance is disgusting. It is really good ad clear. It will clear rooms. It will explode and cause chain reactions that kill more enemies. The thing is, Graviton doesn't have any intrinsic subclass setup. There's no Void 3.0 effects on this. The best you have on the Catalyst is Vorpal and Turnabout, which are totally okay, but like this is a primary. It already doesn't do good damage against champions, so you're not really using the Vorpal to kill champions. Maybe it's great for breaking barrier shields when we have anti-barrier pulses in the game, but other than that, the main benefits are like the really low fall off, the pretty good DPS against red bars, and the explosions. It's not going to chew up elites, unfortunately. If we ever see another pulse rifle buff increasing their damage to elites again, Graviton might go a little bit higher, but without some kind of Void 3.0 rework, this is the worst of these kind of primary. In 6th place is another kinetic auto rifle. This one is from a raid. This is a raid exotic, Necrochasm. Now, this is above Graviton, even though it also does not have subclass synergy. It is kinetic. The explosions are arc damage, so they can give you amplified if you're on prismatic or if you're on arc. But the thing is, the explosions from this do more damage than Graviton's. They more consistently hit their target than Graviton. They reload the weapon without you having to actually get a kill. Getting a headshot kill gives you a rapid fire increase, which increases your DPS. And if you kill something with the explosion damage ticks, you can still get those explosions without a headshot. The Catalyst, if you get it, I've been a little bit lazy. I haven't been running Crota to finish this up, unfortunately. But if you get the 1 for Thrall Catalyst, you get 1 for all on top of the damage buff, which means this is much better at chewing through elites than the pulse rifles are. There's not much to make Necrochasm special, and in a lot of activities where you can't get a headshot kill consistently, you're playing too far away, you're fighting the Vex, which are notoriously difficult to headshot, especially with a 720 RPM auto rifle. You could probably leave this behind, and that's when Graviton might move a little bit up. But in a lot of content, you're not consistently fighting Vex all the time. There are some enemies that are just much easier to headshot, like the Hive. This thing will put up better numbers, I think, than Graviton. And once you get the Desperado proc in here, and you have a faster fire rate, this will chew up elites better than Graviton will. We have our newest addition to the exotic collection, which is Barodiad. Barodiad is a very powerful strand SMG from this season, and if you finish all of its quests, it is craftable with a couple of different options on here. We'll talk about like the best one briefly, and I'll talk about the second version of this. But intrinsically, what this does is while you deal damage, you build up a bar. When you reload, you will consume your energy in the bar, and based on how full it is, you will get up to 6 shots that do bonuses of some kind. Now, in this Take an Ambition mode, which is the mode that I suggest crafting, you will get bonus energy on your bar for hitting 1 target. Hitting that target 12 times, which is pretty easy with an SMG, especially in late game content, even on red bars, you will get half the bar. If you do that for 24 shots, you'll get a full bar. When you reload, your bonus shots do extra damage to a single target. And this extra damage is no joke. It is like deleting champions under level. Now, it doesn't do very good damage against bosses. SMGs just have terrible scalers against bosses. But against champions or lower, these shots will straight up delete pretty much anything. You can pair that with 1 for all as the catalyst, which means if you are trying to kill ads and chew through ads faster, 1 for all will basically make this, a 70-80% damage buff over regular SMGs. It will clear those extremely quickly, and then when you need to amp up the damage to kill a tankier target, elite, mini boss, champion, you have that option as well. And this is the only catalyst that will boost the damage of Take an Ambition. The Blighted Seekers get a damage buff if you have it, but the other options are Hatchling, or Target Lock, or High Impact Reserves, which are all the bottom of the mag, and these are always at the top of the mag. So I think these stack together great. If you wanted to change Take an Ambition for the other version, you have hitting 3 targets, which will also proc 1 for all, will give you that bonus energy, and your Seekers, instead of doing great single target damage, will spread and hit multiple enemies and do better AoE clear. So you can make this an even better ad clear option, but I think at base this is a really good ad clear option, and this option of taking Ambition makes it just better against the elites and mini bosses and champions that primaries suffer against, and makes it a better all-around weapon. In 4th place, we have our 2nd episode Heresy exotic making this list in Lodestar. Kind of surprising that this thing got onto the list. I really thought that it was going to suck seeing it in the season pass. However, as a trace rifle, it has pretty good damage. It is like 80% to 70% the damage of a normal trace rifle. It does do full auto regular trace stuff and hip fire. However, it's primary ammo, which means that the primary-esque nature of trace rifles doesn't feel as bad with this thing, because you have unlimited ammo and you can run a regular special for like elite champion damage, right? The benefit of this thing, the hipfire is totally normal trace rifle shenanigans, but dealing arc damage increases the charge on your arc alignment. And this is an alt fire where when you proc it, you can hipfire to apply jolt to anything hit, and then you can hold R to turn it off and save your bar. So if you're trying to just apply jolt to one target, you can do that, turn it off, and keep most of your bar. Charging this up with the hipfire takes about a mag and a half. If you aim down sights, you activate this phase converter magazine thing, which basically just means while you're ADS'd, it's a pulse rifle, and it also does triple the energy for your arc alignment. So in one mag, you can easily proc arc alignment while you're ADS'd. The bonus for ADSing, apart from the regular damage bonus and the better range, is if the enemy has jolt or blind on them, you'll get the jolt procs doing extra damage, you'll get this doing extra damage, and if you kill them, it causes that enemy to explode and blind everything nearby, giving you a little bit better ad clear and letting you control ads, which is basically like what we do with the rocket sidearm or some of the other specials, Psycho Pump or Barrents, where we're on arc subclasses getting amplified using beacons to blind enemies. You can do that with Lodestar built in. You don't need any fragments or anything, and you're getting the bonus damage on top. This thing will kill elites pretty reliably. And the arc alignment is just great for maintaining jolt on things, which is when you're building into arc, having debuffs on targets is like really mandatory for making ionic traces, proccing flow state, doing things with bolt charge. This is great. So you don't need the catalyst on this thing. It just gives you increased reload speed, but you're already at like 65. It's basically just eddy current. So this thing in base is an amazing arc option. It has the AoE ad clear from Jolt that you want on something like Sunshot. It has blinding on it that you want on your specials normally. So it kind of fills 2 roles there. And by this being a primary, you could run this on, say, a Cenotaph Warlock to spawn green for yourself and heavy for your teammates, and you don't have to run Unsworn or Div. You could run a Slug Shotgun or a Sniper on top of this. So a great flexible option. If you haven't played with this season, I highly recommend it, especially if you're going to be playing on Arc subclasses at all. This is a great thing to build into Arc even further. In 3rd place, I think it's no surprise, I've already mentioned it a couple of times, but we have Sunshot. Ever since D2 launch, Sunshot has been a powerful option. It got buffed so many times. It doesn't take headshots to trigger its perk anymore. Its catalyst is bonus stats that you don't even really care about, but if you have it, it's just a little better. With explosive rounds being built into this thing, it basically has no fall off ever. It is the only 150 currently in the game. We're going to get another 150 in Edge of Fate, but it's switching between 150 and 120, so I don't really count it. This thing has better DPS than 140, just at base. The explosive payload gives it better damage, and Sunblast makes it so that any kill with Sunshot makes the enemy explode. Think Cursed Thrall, but just whenever. As a hand cannon, this does better damage against elites than any other exotic on this list, save one, and it applies Scorch on the explosion hits, meaning it builds into Solar 3.0. Sunshot is and has been one of the best exotic primaries. You can tell a lot of kills in this thing since Solar 3.0. I think it's going to maintain its place. There's no nerfs coming that look like they're going to hurt it that much. We might see some legendary primaries pick up slack there with Scorching, so maybe you'll be using some of those a bit more. But this thing will take you through any content. It will deal with elites. It's not going to deal with champions or mini bosses for you, but it will maintain a certain level of you don't worry about ads anymore. especially if you're doing something with high ad density like duality third encounter. Second place might be a bit divisive. I have Kvostov here. Obviously, this is the exotic from the Pale Heart. This version of Kvostov comes with a ricocheting bullet every 7th round. This ricochet bullet does bonus damage and will do, pretty good ad clear. It'll bounce to 2 other targets. So you can make orbs pretty consistently with this thing, which is great because intrinsically, when you pick up an orb, you get a boost to your ricocheting shot, wherein, while this is procced, every ricochet round does bonus bounces, up to 7 bounces, giving you even more ad clear and better single target damage because it can rebounce to the target it hit originally. You can get really good damage on one target if there's enemies around, but if there's not, you'll just clear out a bunch of ads, and the shot still does, extra damage, so it's nice to have this procced. The real nice thing about having shoot to loot on Kvostov is that while you're making all these orbs in all these random places because the bullet's just bouncing wherever it wants to, you can pick that up and keep this perk procced very consistently. This is the reason that I've fallen in love with shoot to loot. Picking up orbs and being able to maintain weapon surges, recuperation, and other things with your exotic primary is just really convenient, and it feels great to use this in endgame. This will clear ads, contest raids. We were using this. This is an amazing weapon. It doesn't chew through elites exactly at the pace of a Sunshot. However, when you have the perk proc and there are ads nearby, if you're laying into that elite, you will most likely kill it as fast as Sunshot because the ricochet round will bounce off a couple of times, and that'll be comparable to Sunshot. It just takes a little bit more luck to get that set up to kill elites, but this is one of the best versions of these exotic primaries that are ad clear focused because the ricochet shot has much more range than like a Sunshot explosion or a Cursed Thrall explosion. First place is an option that is near and dear to my heart. I didn't use it much until the Witch Queen because the Catalyst was unacquirable until the Witch Queen came out. But once I got the Catalyst and, prettied it up, Outbreak Perfected became easily my favorite weapon in the game. Outbreak is the one exception to this rule of exotic primaries being ad clear and being kind of trashy against elites, mini bosses, champions, and bosses, because Outbreak is good against everything. Outbreak is a de facto raid DPS option for when you're running out of heavy and special. People break out Outbreak to this day to deal with final stands. It is one of, if not the best, all-around weapon in the game. Getting a headshot kill will proc Corruption Spread, which will spawn a bunch of nanites on the enemy, which is basically a swarm grenade. They will seek out nearby enemies and deal damage. When they stick to an enemy, you will deal more damage. This will stack with up to 100 nanites. Your teammates can spawn nanites that will also increase your damage when they stick to a target. So in a team, this ramps up very quickly. But even if you're using this by yourself, it only takes 3 or 4 bursts to make nanites, and they increase much more rapidly on the front end than they do at the late end. So stacks like 1 through 12 are the most impactful, which is about less than a mag in a pulse rifle terms. So you get that filled up, you are doing double, triple damage with Outbreak into any target. Plus, being an exotic primary, this feeds super heavily into roaming super energy. If you saw the how to spam supers video that we did recently, Outbreak can charge your roaming super in like 27 seconds, give or take. And it'll be even faster in Edge of Fate. We're talking like 20 seconds, 19 seconds to charge a roaming super if you're dumping this into a boss, which is taking even less damage than like a champion would. In GMs, 2 Outbreaks can like kill a champion outright. As long as you, proc 1 or 2 sets of swarms and then stun it, you can have 2 people just kind of dump a champion and not worry about it. You don't need specials. You don't even need heavy half the time. Now, the Catalyst is not necessarily mandatory, but it is a huge bonus to Outbreak. The Disease Vector increases nanite damage, which is when they hit enemies from either the Dragonfly Explosion or while you're shooting them, those get increased. They also increase their damage from the number of nanites on the target. So, stacking this up, they get much more bonus damage. And when an enemy dies while they have nanites attached, they will drop nanite. So even if you aren't getting a headshot kill, if they have nanites on them, it will kind of reproc that AoE spread of the nanites, which means you can have more damage for the next target. And if you do get a headshot kill on an enemy that has nanites, you'll have like 13 to 12 nanites instead of 9, which is just even more AoE damage. So when Bungie was like, hey, 0 Hour's coming back, we're adding craftable versions of Outbreak, I was like, oh my god, they're going to add Rapid Hit. It's going to be time. And they did. and it is great. But they also added rewind rounds to Outbreak. And at first glance, you might think, okay, like whatever, rewind rounds is cool. But how good is it? If you have extended mag and you just magged up this thing, because if you don't know, rewind rounds has a bit of a cooldown where when it procs, it won't count your shots hit for the first second. But if you mag dump this, you will get easily over 100 rounds in one clip, which for Outbreak is a ridiculous amount of damage. And I would probably recommend taking loaders because extended mag does drop your reload speed kind of low. But even then, just rewind rounds by itself increases Outbreak's DPS potential substantially, like easily double. And if you're in a boss scenario, you're usually using rally barricades, lunafaction boots, or other reload boosts anyways. So it doesn't matter if you're using extended mag and you need to reload slower because you're already maxing out your reload stat and having a multiplier normally. If you're using Outbreak for general ad clear, sure, take a reload mod, maybe switch out rapid hit if you really want to, but I think you're messing up if you're not taking rewind rounds in this thing. So I can not highly recommend enough that you use Outbreak more often. Give it a chance if you need an exotic primary or want to change up how you're playing, because you can still bring rockets, you can still bring your GLs, you can bring your Chibiter, you can bring a powerful slug shotgun, you can bring rocket sidearms. If you don't want to wind up Outbreak on an elite or a boss, you don't have to. You can use this in a regular rotation and just use Outbreak when you're out of ammo. Like, you will run out of ammo eventually. And if you don't, then it doesn't really matter if you had Outbreak or not. But in the event you are trying to kill things as quickly as possible, I think Outbreak will surprise you at how effective it is at killing ads and elites and champions, and you'll be surprised how often you get roaming supers. Run this with your Storm Trance or your Red Runner or your Glacial Quakes, and you will see crazy amounts of super energy. And that's it for today. That is our top 10 exotic primaries going into Edge of Fate. There's nothing that really changed up the meta for these going into Edge of Fate, like a direct stats or buffs or nerfs or anything. You're still not going to be kind of using exotic primaries for general purpose. They will be more niche than specials still. And I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. It's just something to be aware of. If you want to run your favorite exotic primary, there's always space for that. Let me know what you think down below. Do you have an exotic primary that you love taking into GMs all the time? I almost thought about putting Final Warning on here because it does crazy damage, but sidearms are sidearms, man. That's just how it is these days. But yeah, I will see you all again tomorrow when we're doing exotic specials, and I hope to see you there. I will see you guys again very, very soon.